The first time Cassandra Vale saw Noah Reed's freezer trailer, she told security to move it before the inspectors arrived. It sat behind Vale Medical Logistics like something abandoned. After a flood, white paint faded to gray, side panels patched with sheet metal, black weatherproof tape, sealing one long scar near the door. Two solar panels were bolted to the roof at imperfect angles, and a small refrigeration unit trembled on the front wall with a steady low hum. Across the back door, written in blue marker over an old grocery logo, were the words "Keep closed unless you know WHY." Cassandra stood near the loading dock in a cream coat, holding a tablet against her chest, and looked at the trailer as if it had personally offended her company. Beside it stood Noah Reed, 37 years old, quiet, tired, with a toolbox in his left hand and his 9-year-old son Eli standing close to his leg. A few dock workers had already stopped pretending not to watch. One driver lifted his phone. Somebody laughed softly from behind a stack of pallets. Cassandra turned to Noah. "You brought a child and a junk freezer to a medical logistics facility," she said. "Which part of that was supposed to help your interview?" The laughter grew because Cassandra Vale was the CEO, and in that building, people usually laughed when she made it safe to laugh. Noah did not smile. He did not argue. He placed one hand on the trailer door and answered with the calm of a man who had learned not to waste strength on people already committed to misunderstanding him. "It holds temperature." Cassandra's mouth curved. "So does a cooler from a gas station. That doesn't mean I park it beside $120 million in medical inventory." Noah looked at the trailer once, then at his son. "If your cold chain ever fails," he said, "ugly will matter less than steady." 14 hours later, Cassandra Vale would stand inside a dark distribution center with emergency alarms screaming across the walls, backup refrigeration dead, and 18 containers of pediatric gene therapy warming toward the edge of ruin. Every approved system would be offline. Every vendor would be too far away. And the only unit on the property still holding perfect temperature would be the patched freezer trailer she had ordered removed before breakfast. Vale Medical Logistics was a company built on quiet pressure. It did not make medicine, it protected it. From its 260,000 square foot facility outside Hartford, it moved insulin, surgical biologics, specialty vaccines, blood products, and trial medications that could not be late, warm, shaken, or mishandled. The labels on the boxes were small, but the consequences inside them were enormous. Cassandra had taken over the company 4 years earlier after her father's stroke. She was 32 then, young enough for board members to question her in rooms where they smiled too much, and sharp enough to make most of them regret it. In 4 years, she had doubled revenue, rebuilt the client list, and turned Vale from a regional carrier into a cold chain company pharmaceutical executives called when they could not afford embarrassment. She was not careless. That was why her mistakes were dangerous. Careless people missed things because they were lazy. Cassandra missed things because she trusted her first judgment too completely, once it seemed supported by discipline, standards, and money. The contract that week was the largest of her career. Ardentes Biocare had chosen Vale to handle the first regional distribution of a pediatric gene therapy used by hospitals in 5 states. The first shipment was worth $120 million over 3 years if the trial phase succeeded. If it failed, Vale would not get a second chance. But old buildings hide truth in the spaces reports do not reach. 2 compressors had been repaired twice in 6 weeks. One backup chiller made a faint metallic sound during load transfer. A temperature probe in Vault 3 had been replaced with a model that worked for food storage, but responded too slowly for medical-grade failure events. The previous maintenance supervisor had retired and told operations, "You need someone who can listen to cold before it leaves." Noah Reed arrived because an old supervisor named Paul Danner sent his name directly to Martin Hale, Vale's facility operations manager. Martin trusted Paul. Cassandra trusted resumes, certifications, and clean presentation. Noah had some of the first two and none of the third. He had meant to arrive alone. At 5:50 that morning, Eli's school called to say a burst heating pipe had closed the building. The neighbor who normally helped was out of town. The backup sitter did not answer. Noah stood in the kitchen of their small apartment with his phone in his hand while Eli watched him over a bowl of cereal. "I can sit quietly," Eli said. "You shouldn't have to." "I know," the boy said, "but I can." So Noah packed the toolbox, checked the freezer trailer's temperature log out of habit, and drove to Vale with Eli in the passenger seat, both of them quiet for most of the ride. The trailer had once belonged to a grocery distributor. Noah bought it for $600 after the cooling system failed, and the company wrote it off as scrap. Over 2 years, he rebuilt it at night behind a friend's repair shop. He replaced insulation panel by panel. He rebuilt the compressor around low-power redundancy. He added battery storage, solar trickle charging, thermal blocks, independent probes, a data logger, and control software. He wrote himself because commercial systems cost too much and trusted stable power too much. Cassandra knew none of that when she judged it. Inside the facility, Eli sat in Natalie's office with a bottle of water, a legal pad, and 3 pens. He thanked her politely and began drawing. Noah followed Martin, Cassandra, and 2 department heads into the mechanical wing. There, something about him changed. Not dramatically. He did not become louder or more confident in the usual way. He became exact. His eyes moved across pipes, sensors, gauges, floor drains, vibration marks, and frost patterns as if the room were speaking and everyone else had entered mid-sentence. Martin showed him the chiller room. "What would you inspect first?" he asked. Noah stood still for 7 seconds. "Not the chillers." Cassandra looked up from her tablet. Martin asked, "Why not?" "Because everyone inspects the expensive thing first. I'd inspect what tells it when to panic." He walked to a small junction box beside the secondary control cabinet and pointed at the label. "That probe has the wrong response curve. It will read close enough during stable conditions, but during a fast temperature rise it will lag. Your dashboard will tell you that you have more time than you do." Rebecca, the compliance manager, crossed her arms. "You cannot know that from looking." Noah tapped the part number. "That model is used in food storage, fine for slow drift. Wrong for this room." Martin photographed the label without speaking. As they moved down the ultra-cold corridor, Noah stopped again. "Who signed off on that door heater?" Cassandra frowned. "What door heater?" Noah pointed to the sealed vault frame. "The anti-condensation strip is cycling irregularly. The relay is sticking or drawing too much current." A technician opened the panel. The relay showed early heat scoring. Rebecca stopped crossing her arms. By the end of the 20-minute walkthrough, Noah had found 4 issues. 2 minor, 1 inconvenient, 1 important enough that Martin's face stayed tight as they returned to the conference room. In Natalie's office, Eli had drawn the trailer under a moon with blue lines around it. "What are the blue lines?" Natalie asked. "Cold," Eli said. "You can draw cold. My dad can build it." Cassandra entered in time to hear that. For half a second, something in her expression changed. Then it closed again. She offered Noah a 10-day trial contract instead of the full temporary role. Lower pay. No authority to make system changes without approval. No personal equipment on Vale property. The trailer had to be moved from the loading bay to the far employee lot. Martin looked at her, as if she had ignored everything she had just seen. Noah read the contract, looked at Eli, and signed it. Pride did not pay rent. For 8 days, Noah worked quietly. He arrived before sunrise and left after most of the building stopped noticing who was still there. He mapped refrigeration lines that had not been updated after renovations. He labeled undocumented valves. He replaced the wrong sensor after Martin pushed the request through. He found a failing fan bearing in Vault 3's backup chiller and documented that the generator test had been logging success without carrying true refrigeration load. On Noah's fourth day, Eli spent the afternoon in Natalie's office again because his after-school program closed early. Cassandra passed the door and saw him building a small warehouse out of binder clips and folded sticky notes. "What are those?" she asked, pointing to blue paper squares. "Thermal blocks," Eli said. "They keep the temperature steady if the machine stops." Cassandra stepped into the doorway. "Who taught you that?" "My dad. He says cold is not something you make once. It's something you protect." The sentence stayed with her longer than she wanted it to. That evening, she saw Noah in the far lot checking the trailer under a pale security light. Eli stood beside him holding a flashlight. The little control screen glowed blue. Cassandra watched from her office window and told herself she was monitoring a liability. She did not explain to herself why she stayed there for 5 minutes. The serious warning arrived on the 9th day. Noah was not invited. Martin brought his report anyway. Vault 3's backup chiller should be taken offline and repaired before the Ardenti's load arrives, Martin said. Cassandra looked at him. "We have been over this. We have new data from Reed." Daniel Price, the CFO, frowned. "The temporary hire." Martin ignored the tone. "The fan bearing is worse than diagnostics show. The generator test is not proving real load. If we get a grid event while Vault 3 is near capacity, the branch could fail." Rebecca said, "The system remains inside documented tolerance." Martin placed Noah's report on the table. "The documentation is behind the condition." "What is the probability of failure tonight?" she asked. Martin hesitated. "Not clean. Best assessment. Low." Cassandra closed the report. "Low does not justify disruption at this stage." "With respect," Martin said, "low probability and low consequence are not the same thing. I understand risk language." "Then understand this. If Reed is right, we may not get a gentle warning." Cassandra chose monitoring over shutdown. Martin delivered the decision to Noah beside Vault 3. Noah stood with one hand resting on the chiller housing, listening to the faint metallic whine beneath the vibration. "I tried," Martin said. Noah nodded. "She thinks I'm protecting my pride." "No," Noah said. "She thinks she's protecting the company." "That makes it better. That makes it harder to stop." At 7:20 that evening, the Ardenti shipment arrived ahead of the worst weather. The loading bay became a careful choreography of scanners, sealed carts, insulated containers, signatures, and quiet urgency. Cassandra was there in person, sleeves rolled, tablet in hand. Rebecca monitored compliance. Natalie coordinated calls. Martin watched the mechanical dashboard. Noah stood near the edge of the bay, not included, not in the way, eyes moving between equipment sounds and temperature readings. The Ardenti's representative, Helena Cross, smiled. "Smooth intake," she said. Cassandra nodded. "That is what we do." Outside, rain hardened against the dock doors. By 10:30, ice began forming on rails and truck mirrors. By 11:12, a transformer failed 2 blocks away, and the building flickered before main power returned. Everyone froze, then breathed. Noah was already looking toward Vault 3. The backup chiller made a sound he did not like, thin, rising, metallic, the sound of a part negotiating with failure. He walked toward it. Rebecca blocked him. "Mr. Reed, the Ardenti zone is restricted." Noah looked past her. "Then get Martin." Something in his voice made her move. At 11:26, the grid failed. This time it did not come back. The facility dropped into emergency mode. Red strips lit along the floor. Refrigeration systems transferred to generator support. Monitors blinked, reset, and returned under backup power. For 18 seconds, everything seemed to work. Then Vault 3's backup chiller seized. The bearing locked under transition load. The motor overloaded. Its breaker tripped. The secondary unit tried to compensate through an old renovation path that should not have carried demand but did. The load spike hit the transfer panel. Protection logic dropped the affected branch. Vault 3 lost active refrigeration. Inside it sat 18 Ardentes containers. The alarm changed from warning to critical. Cassandra reached the control room at a run. What happened? Martin's hands moved across the panel. Vault 3 refrigeration branch dropped. Backup chiller failed. Secondary could not carry transfer. Rebecca's face went pale. Temperature is still inside band. Noah entered behind them. For now, Cassandra turned to him, and for the first time since morning, she did not see the wrinkled jacket first. She saw the expression of a man who had already lived through the next 10 minutes in his head and did not like the ending. How long, she asked. Before emergency relocation, maybe 22 minutes. Before reportable risk, less. Move them to Vault 2. Martin shook his head. Vault 2 is near capacity. Portable units. Rebecca said, approved units are in the west cage. A technician looked up. West cage exterior door is frozen shut. Cut it open, Cassandra snapped. Even if we do, they need stable generator tie-in. That branch is unstable. The room filled with voices. Cassandra silenced them with one raised hand. Her mind moved through procedures, vendors, emergency contacts, compliance ladders, insurance language. Every approved answer arrived too late. Noah said, my trailer can hold them. The room went quiet. Cassandra looked at him. No. You can move the 18 containers into my trailer and stabilize them until Vault 3 is restored or Vault 2 is cleared. Rebecca almost laughed from stress. A personal trailer is not approved medical storage. Noah pointed at the temperature graph. Neither is a warm vault. Daniel's voice came through the speakerphone. Absolutely not. The liability exposure. Cassandra cut him off. Can it hold medical range? Noah answered 2 to 8 Celsius. Independent logging, redundant probes, battery-backed compressor, thermal mass support. I can export live data. Rebecca said, certification. No current certification. Then we can't. Noah looked at Cassandra. If you do nothing, something is already going wrong. Cassandra stared through the glass toward the dark corridor leading to Vault 3. Responsibility did not feel like power now. It felt like a locked room filling with smoke. She looked back at him. You said ugly would matter less than steady. Yes. Was that confidence or anger? Data. For 1 second, she almost smiled because the answer was exactly him. Show me, she said. They moved fast. Noah backed the trailer to the emergency bay on the first attempt. He jumped out, slipped on the ice, caught himself against the hitch and kept moving. He opened the trailer's control cabinet. The inside changed, every face close enough to see it. Clean wiring, labeled circuits, redundant probes, battery status, compressor health, door sensors, a thermal printer, a data port, rows of cold packs locked into side compartments. Nothing pretty, everything deliberate. Rebecca stepped closer. You built this? Yes. Martin looked at the display. It's holding 3.8 Celsius. It has been between 3.6 and 4.1 all day. Cassandra heard the last 2 words. All day. Noah handed Rebecca a cable. Plug this into your laptop. Logs are time-stamped. Rebecca took it. Cassandra turned to the crew. Move the containers. The transfer took 14 minutes and 40 seconds. Every container had to be scanned, lifted, moved through the emergency bay, verified, placed inside the trailer according to NOAA's spacing instructions, and logged again. Rain blew into the dock each time the outer door opened. The floor grew slick. Hands shook from cold and pressure. Martin called steps in a steady voice. Rebecca tracked compliance with grim focus. Cassandra carried 2 containers herself when a technician slipped and the line slowed. Noah stayed at the trailer door, watching temperature, spacing, exposure time, and people all at once. Left rack, not floor. Keep the door angle narrow. Do not stack those. 30 seconds, then close. Nobody questioned him. At 11:53, the last Ardentes container entered the trailer. Noah closed the door. The temperature rose to 4.7, then 4.8, then held. Everyone stared at the display. The compressor cycled, battery support engaged. The thermal blocks absorbed the door-open heat. The number dropped to 4.6, then 4.5. Martin exhaled like someone had removed a weight from his chest. Rebecca covered her mouth with one hand. Cassandra stood in the rain watching the display as if it were the only honest thing in the world. At 12:08, Noah printed a temperature strip and handed it to Rebecca. Continuous log, no excursion. Rebecca looked at the paper, then at him. Thank you. For the next 6 hours, the patched freezer trailer became the most important room at Vail Medical Logistics. Noah stayed beside it through the night, monitoring power draw, compressor cycling, battery reserve, probe agreement, and door integrity. Martin worked with emergency contractors to restore temporary cooling to Vault 3. Rebecca coordinated with Ardentes under carefully worded procedures that disclosed the outage without triggering product loss because, measurably, no product loss had occurred. Cassandra did not leave. At 3:40, contractors restored temporary cooling to Vault 3. At 4:50, the Ardentes containers moved back under controlled procedure. At 5:12, Rebecca confirmed no temperature excursion had occurred. The shipment was safe. The contract was safe. Cassandra's company, for the moment, was safe. Noah sat on the edge of the dock after the last container cleared. He removed one glove and flexed his fingers as if just noticing how cold they were. His face looked gray under the fluorescent lights. Cassandra sat several feet away from him because she did not know what right she had to sit closer. I owe you an apology, she said. Noah looked at the wet concrete. Yes. It was not cruel, it was accurate. I embarrassed you in front of my people. Yes. I dismissed your equipment without understanding it. Yes. I reduced your contract after you gave us better information than people we paid much more. You did. She almost defended herself. Standards, liability, presentation, pressure. None of it was completely false. None of it was the truth that mattered. I was wrong, she said. Noah was quiet. Then he said, my son heard you. Cassandra closed her eyes briefly. I know. He hears more than people think. I know. He has had enough people look at us like we are a problem. The sentence was calm. That made it worse. I am sorry, Cassandra said. This time Noah nodded. Not forgiveness, receipt. By 8:10, Natalie arrived with Eli, who wore the same hoodie from the day before and carried a paper bag with breakfast sandwiches. He ran toward Noah, stopped at the safety line, and waited until his father waved him through. Dad. Noah crouched as Eli threw his arms around him. You didn't sleep, Eli said. No. Did the trailer work? It worked. Eli turned toward Cassandra with careful eyes. Did it keep the medicine cold? Cassandra stepped closer. Yes, she said, it did. Eli looked at the trailer, then back at her. My dad built it after my mom got sick. The loading bay seemed to quiet around the words. Noah's face changed. Eli. But the boy continued, honest in the way children are before adults teach them which truths make rooms uncomfortable. He said medicine should get where it's going, even when roads are bad, even when power goes away, because people are waiting. Cassandra looked at Noah. For the first time she saw the grief behind the machine, not weakness, not disorder. Discipline born from loss. Love turned into insulation, wires, probes, batteries, and a humming compressor that refused to fail when people were waiting. She lowered herself slightly to speak to Eli. Your father saved something very important last night. Eli looked at Noah with open pride. I know. At 10:00, Cassandra called an emergency leadership meeting. Noah was not on the invite. Cassandra walked out, found him checking a valve, and said, You should be in this room. Why? Because everyone in it will discuss what you did. I did what was needed. That is exactly why. Cassandra stood at the head of the table. Last night, we avoided product loss because Mr. Reed's assessment was correct, and my decision was not. Daniel shifted. The weather event was extraordinary. My decision was not, Cassandra said. The room went still. Legal counsel cleared his throat. We need to address the unauthorized equipment issue. We will, Cassandra said, after we address why unauthorized equipment outperformed authorized systems. Martin looked down to hide his expression. Cassandra turned to Noah. I am offering you the permanent role of cold chain infrastructure lead, full authority to stop cold chain operations under defined risk conditions, direct escalation to me, compensation adjusted above range, and if you are willing, I want Vail to evaluate your trailer system for emergency medical logistics deployment. Noah did not answer immediately. One board member leaned toward the camera. Mr. Reed, is the trailer a one-off device or a prototype? Noah looked at the screen. A prototype that became a working unit because I needed it to. Could it be replicated? Yes. At scale. Noah's eyes stayed steady. Not if you cut safety systems to make it cheaper. The board member paused. That was not my question. It is the question that comes after yours, Noah said. Cassandra almost smiled. Good, she said, then we start there. Noah accepted the role with one condition. Eli would never again be treated like an embarrassment when childcare failed, and Noah had to choose between earning money and keeping his son safe. Cassandra agreed before legal could translate it into colder language. Over the next month, Vail changed in expensive, inconvenient, necessary ways. Vault 3 was rebuilt properly. Generator tests carried real refrigeration load. Every sensor was checked against medical cold chain requirements instead of generic storage standards. Emergency portable units were purchased, tested, and staged where ice could not trap them. No backup system could pass because it blinked correctly during an easy morning. It had to prove something under strain. Noah led the work quietly. The trailer moved from the far fence to a covered pad near the emergency receiving bay. Cassandra ordered power, weather protection, and assigned that red mobile cold chain reserve unit. Noah saw the sign and said it was too long. Eli saw it and said it needed a name. Cassandra asked what he called the trailer. Eli looked surprised adults had made this complicated. Mara, he said. Noah went still. The name sat in the air. Eli looked at his father. Is that okay? Noah swallowed once. Yes, he said, that's okay. So the development project became the MARA unit, short for Mobile Adaptive Refrigeration Asset, because Natalie spent 2 hours finding words that would make the name fit a document. Cassandra approved it without edits. 6 months later, the first newly built MARA unit was deployed to a rural hospital network during a grid instability pilot. It was cleaner than Noah's trailer, professionally paneled, certified, documented, and polished enough for Cassandra's old standards. But inside, it carried the same principles: redundancy, honest sensors, thermal protection, and no silent removal of safety for the sake of margin. At the launch demonstration, Cassandra spoke first. Then she invited Noah to explain the system. He stood before hospital administrators, logistics managers, engineers, and 2 reporters, wearing a jacket Natalie had convinced him to buy and the same work boots he refused to replace. He did not speak like a salesman. Cassandra stood at the side of the room and looked down. Not because she was bored. Because she remembered the loading yard laughter, the patched trailer in the rain, and the boy who said people were waiting. After the demonstration, a reporter asked Noah if he always knew his design would become important. Noah glanced at Eli, who stood beside the original trailer with one hand resting proudly on its side. "No," Noah said, "I just knew it needed to work." The article came out 2 days later. It did not lead with Cassandra, and 6 months earlier that would have irritated her. It led with Noah Reed, the single father whose homemade freezer trailer saved a medical shipment during a storm and became the foundation for a new emergency cold chain platform. The photo showed Noah and Eli beside the original patch trailer, not the polished new unit. Cassandra had insisted on that. This time, Cassandra backed him every time. "Keep closed unless you know WHY." Cassandra stood beside him. "Do you ever think about repainting it?" "No. Of course not." He looked at her. "You still think it's ugly?" She looked at the trailer for a long moment. "Yes." Noah almost smiled. "But now," Cassandra said, "I know ugly is not the same thing as unworthy." Noah nodded. "That's progress." From the emergency bay, Eli called out that Martin said he could check the non-critical temperature log if he used pencil. Noah looked at Cassandra. She lifted her hands. "I am not getting between that boy and a clipboard." Noah called back, "Pencil only." Eli disappeared inside, grinning. Cassandra watched him go. "I was cruel that morning," she said. Noah closed the side panel. "You were certain." "That is not better." "No," he said, "but it is more fixable." The line was steady. No excursion. Noah held the frame for a long moment. Then he said, "Thank you." Later, when most people had gone back inside, Cassandra found him standing alone by the trailer. "Hard day?" she asked. He looked at the framed log resting on the trailer step. "Good day." "Those can be hard." He nodded. Cassandra looked at the trailer door. "Your wife would be proud." Noah did not move. For a moment, she thought she had said too much. Then he said she would have asked why it took a crisis for anyone to listen. Cassandra looked down. She would have been right. "Yes," Noah said, "she usually was." When Noah finally left, Eli waited in the van with his backpack and a library book. Noah climbed into the driver's seat. Eli looked at him. "Dad." "Yeah." "Do you think Mom would like the MARA units?" Noah's hand paused on the key. "Yes." "Because they help medicine." "Yes." Eli thought about that. "And because they don't give up." Noah looked through the windshield at the facility, at the emergency bay, at the covered pad where the original trailer rested under its light. "That too," he said. As they drove out, the security guard lifted the barrier and gave them a salute he had started doing as a joke and continued, because it no longer felt like one. Behind them, the patched freezer trailer sat quiet, no longer hidden at the edge of the lot, No longer a punchline. No longer something Cassandra Vale could look at and believe she understood. That was fine. Noah had not built it to be seen. He built it to hold. And sometimes, that is the difference between what people laugh at and what saves them.